What is the nothingness, the void, the I am presence? The noumenon, as Wei Wu Wei / Terence Gray and then Ramesh Balsekar would talk about. Ramesh got his ideas off of Wei Wu Wei, eh? So I'm about to show you a legacy web video from 2019 where I talk about the nothingness and how it kind of operates and feels. And I got quite drunk on it. But I remain functional, that's the point. Ooh. So since then, the Laws of Grace course, the Correct Presence Practice course, and the 9-pillar framework here is all being laid out on the website for you. The structural aspects. So you can be specific with it all. If you want it. Takes effort. Enjoy this classic video, especially the little squeaky frog. Make contact if you have any questions. Check out the Correct Presence Practice course. It's pillar 1, it's foundational for a reason, and that clarity makes it precise for you. That way you don't need to get lost to silly memes and truisms that are vague, and it needs to apply here on planet Earth in your body. In when you're in lockdown in this pandemic, or as I was this morning when I was sitting at my chair and we had an earthquake shake the house. Pretty unusual to have them in this country. Enjoy the video. Check out the Correct Presence Practice course, or make contact and have some quality one-on-one feedback, which is extremely rare to get by someone who can be this defined about it. The layers of presence, from the gross physicality of just being aware of your body, to the inner body, to presence, to the nothingness, the void, the spark that is everything. How do you define these? It's actually relatively tricky. So what I've noticed over the years, whenever I've run groups, and even last weekend with 25 people in the room, I described the nothingness, and I said, how many of you know what I'm talking about? And everybody raised their hand. Everybody. I think in some respects all humans have glimpses and experiences of it, but when you experience the real base, not just the buzz of your body, the energies, what Eckhart Tolle would define as the inner body, and then the subtler presence under that, which is the okay space that allows everything to be. It's just consciousness. It's kind of spacious and kind of holds everything. But under that is the void, the true nothingness. It is, it's hard to put into words. Now, I've just had a session with someone and I got them to describe their version of the nothingness. And what was very clear is as you practice all this stuff, like I always say, it's a relentless practice and you accustomize to it. By the way, I'm Jason at AwakenedEssence.com. As you acclimatize, you become very aware, very used to the feelings. So right now, I'm aware of the energy around my hands. Right? I teach healing stuff, Golden Ray. Sign up for the online course, get the attunement. It gives you another portal of presence. I go to hands as I talk about it. Right? Energy healing. If you're into the spiritual stuff, energy healing, yeah, feel the energy coming out of your hands. Get used to that. Is that you? If you do Reiki or whatever you do, touch for health, pranic healing, it's a nothing, isn't it? It's kind of in a body, but universal energy. So as you practice these things, you get more and more used to them, and as you practice being a healer, you get used to the different sort of energies and what that means and how to help people better and hopefully give more effective healings to people. Presence practice is no different, but you're the one that benefits. You get used to it. You become nuanced at it. You get really good at it. You become a black belt at it. That's enlightenment, black belt of presence. Right?
You go through the gradings, you get the tests, you practice over and over and over, you master it, you go to the next level. You start off as a white belt, then you get a red belt, then you work your way up through your green and brown and then to black, then you're a first dan, black belt, when you've just entered the enlightenment phase. But you're not really matured till you're a fourth dan black belt. And people that do karate, it takes a long time to get to fourth dan black belt, a lot longer than it took to get to the black belt. It's a lot more excruciating. The assessments are a lot longer. Well, awakening and the deepening is no different. You go through more layers. So, I was going to talk about the nothingness. Enlightenment is when abiding presence, is when that deepest layer, the nothingness that's everything, that isn't a person, it's just life spark. It's before light. It's before light. That's why I say it's nothing, it's black, it's nothing, but it's very, very core. And when you first get glimpses of that, your personality goes, ugh, and it will close in on it. If it doesn't, then you awaken. But now, sense where you're at with your personality and your capacity to hold nothingness. Now, when you hold your version of nothingness or just the presence, does that aliveness actually feel like you? The thing that takes ownership, it knows it's not that stillness, right? Otherwise you would live in the stillness non-stop. You'd be awakened, permanently abiding, enlightened. So it's not you. As a seeker, the calling to God or trying to get away from the pain means you want to go towards that. That's the motivation to practice. That's the motivation to go home, to worship, to all that stuff. All right. So as you do that, this nothingness, this aliveness, which gives the outcomes of feeling bliss, peace, joy, happiness, right? It's holding the presence that allows these things to come through. Bliss is a byproduct of presence. Unless you're going into your mental body, your higher mental body, the bliss body, and you get bliss that way through doing it through your head. A lot of people do that. I did that for many years before I realised, it needs to be in here and it needs to be grounded. So yeah, I did the mental body bliss, the bliss body bliss for 12 years. A long time to do that stuff. So I know when it's real and when it's the fake one. Very nuanced at it. Very nuanced at creating exquisite levels of bliss and bodily avoidance and mind stuff. This is why I say a lot of people are in their head with this, because they are. It feels terrible when you learn to be grounded. Now, as you become accustomed to your presence, there is something that's more nothingy that you can't quite point to. That is, you just know is the core spark of everything, but it's absolutely nothing. It's expansive, but it's not. Sometimes it actually implodes into nothingness, and as it implodes into infinite nothingness, it gets really, really huge. So yeah, I'm using words that contradict because that's exactly what it is. Dichotomy is often part of this process. If it's not oxymoronical and dichotomous, then chances are it's not right. So with the nothing comes everything. Before the Big Bang, before this physical universe existed, there was nothing. It's in the Bible, Big Bang or whatever. Oh, wow, a universe just popped out of nowhere. So that place, what happens is, as you practice presence, your psychology, your person, your ego, and your unconscious mind and its habits, its programs, its defensive mechanisms to keep you safe that you developed since you were in the womb through to now today, unfold, so you can hold this bigger something which freaks out the person, freaks out the ego, the personality, because it's an individual. So the individual needs to acclimatise to the everything. So this is the process. So bit by bit, as you practice really good, you practice consistently, or if you're just one of these lucky people and you just kind of have it happening a lot, these people do exist. They're called old souls and all that stuff. But anybody can awaken, let's be clear about that, because it's an unconscious process. It's an unconscious practice of learning the habit to be what you were when you were born. It's called the return to innocence, right? It's a saying, it's an Enigma song as well, return to innocence. It's what it means. As you return to innocence, you return back to that nothingness, but you still hold. Well, for me, Jason Guy is still here. Eckhart Tolle Presence is still there. Adyashanti Guy is still there. The person is still there, obviously, right? You talk to them, you call them by that name. You don't go, hey, nothing, 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 and they know what you're talking about. No, you use language. Hey, Edja, blah, blah, blah. So, as you deepen, being aware of your body, tummy, pelvic floor, hands, feet. Were you doing that before I prompted you like I do in all the other videos? Feel, be aware of pelvic floor. Get under all that stuff. Get that far away from your head. This far away from your solar plexus. Solar plexus, identity, emotional center. So you're under it. That way you can ground. So as you ground, are you aware of the space in your body? Is there a subtler space, a yummy space, an accepting space, a quiet space, a still space? All those words. Yes or no, or is the head going, meh, 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 meh? Right, back to the space. Doesn't matter if the head's chattering. As you practice and get used to this practice of coming in and doing the body parts, you will be able to listen to your head and feel this at the same time. Then, this is where we're getting to with the nothingness. You will have those deeper moments, those bigger insights, those samadhi things, the different awakening experiences where it's like, oh, I'm no one. How long they last, how deep and strong they are will vary. One according to you and two according to grace. The nothingness, the grace, they're the same thing really. You will have more of these. What that does is it allows your person to become more okay with that. Ooh, I'm nothing. Right? Gives you the ability to look in and allow it to come through. And the amount it will come through, how long it comes through, the depth of how long it will come through will grow over time because you get used to it. You earn your black belt, so to speak, because you're better at doing the skill sets and the abilities and the state of being receptive to allow that which is nothing to be with you consciously as you, the person, get to experience the nothingness that you are. And if you're honest, self-honest, got to mention self-honesty in every video, notice how it feels if you say, that's me. Is that me? Just ask the question, is that me? Notice the feeling. Who's the owner? Huh? Who's the owner? Who's the director of the consciousness? Who's the chooser? There is always a chooser, even when you're enlightened, because you choose to be aware of your nothing. Nothing doesn't go, oh, I'm aware of myself. That's why it created the universe, so it could see itself. Come on. Logical. So, as you deepen and your presence practice becomes stable and your unconscious separation mechanisms to keep you safe as a person, as an identity. All those things you learnt when you were 2 and 3, that's mine. That's my name. That's mine. And some other kid cries, no, it's mine, right? You undo this consciously as you practice presence. But you, of course, you are still you. You know which car is yours. You know when you go to a supermarket, that's not yours until you pay for it, right? This is why we have all this psychological person stuff, so we can function in a body. The person gets used to this nothingness, and as the bits undo, as I keep saying in numerous videos now, this nothingness becomes more tangible. It does. So, talking to someone I was working with just before, they explained their version of it, and it was kind of very spacey and quite fleeting. I often say it's solid. It's like solid nothingness that's very, very solid, and sometimes it expands, it's big. But and also in other videos I might say it feels so solid it's more solid than gold, like really heavy. Solid nothingness. It does, it becomes very tangible. It's grown to be tangibly solid. It's always there. I cannot lose it regardless of what happens in life, which is why I always talk about being hit by a car and various, losing people and jobs and blah, 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 right? It's there, always there. When you're doing your presence practice, regardless of where you're at, this thing will come and go until you hit the awakening, the proper abiding, the proper enlightenment phase, where enough of these separation things of the me, call it ego if you want, open up, and you can keep access to that. The sound may vary, just like the feel of it varies. It always varies. It's infinite nothingness. It can do whatever it wants. So that varies. Right? It's like a flat line on the the heart monitor in the hospital. Ooh, they're gone. Right? Listen, can you hear it? Yep. Okay. So you can have all the different senses pick it up. And this is another one you can work with your presence with your different senses. When you enter the abiding place, enough of these have opened up that you comfortably now know, gosh, it's here. Obviously, I'm not looking around for it outside of myself, but it's just like, wow, gee, it's already here. So that's what happened, right? I practiced the Eckhart Tolle Power Now thing, presence, grounding, once I realised when I got some brutal feedback that I was in my head, incarnate, and do it via this, right? Something changed. Oh, it's already here, my practice, like I say in these videos, although I still do it, but it's different now, because the nothingness is already there. Oh, it's already here. My presence practice isn't working. It's already here. Wow, this is a good phase. So it did 6 months of, geez, it's still here. This is a really good phase. We go through cycles. There's a cycle video there. We go through cycles of hard practice, hard stuff, good stuff, bad stuff, good stuff, bad stuff. The seasons, good cycles of practice where it's easy and you're good at it, and then cycles where it's not, and I thought I was having a good cycle. It's here. Oh, this is so easy. It's just here. All that practicing stuff, I don't need to do it. It's just here. Again, what my attention was going into that. There's still the chooser of the choosing. So what happens is that nothingness is kind of always here. And because you become so familiar and so connected to it, it's just like, jeepers, it is me. And it grows, this me, which is nothing, before light, before space, before bliss, before joy, just a nothingy nothingness. You know that's you. Like, and as you deepen and settle into your abiding, this is why it takes minimum 5 years while you are still practicing, still tuning in. So conscious person, conscious Jason person keeps checking in, even now, over 11 and a half years later, still checking in, but unconsciously I've become very, very deeply settled in it. Right? If my nothingness was to vanish, I would notice that as much as you would if you had your arms and legs cut off and you woke up in the morning and they were gone. You know your arms and legs are there, eh? I know my nothingness is there even more than that. Seriously. And life gives the evidence with what happens. Oh yeah, stillness is still here. All right. It grows, it becomes more established, you become used to it. It's still a nothing. So I'm talking to you as a Jason guy, as I fully feel, like it's gotten bigger because I'm focusing on it and talking to you guys, which then goes into the video and hopefully helps you to practice and feel it for yourself. And it will grow from whatever it is. If it's a grain of sand, sort of solid nothingness, empty nothingness, nothing nothingness, airy fairy, floaty nothingness that's really hard to feel, it might just be a grain of sand. But as you practice more with these videos, you know, it'll get to the size of a pea and you go, oh, got it. Oh, oh, saying, oh, I got it meant I lost it. That's right, that happens in the early stages. Ah, my chinny mind's back. And mind isn't a problem either. Let's be clear about that. So this little nothingness thing, now I'm being silly, becomes more stable, it gets more solid. The nothing is more solid. You hear that frog? It sounded like it was being squeezed. This is what you call getting drunk on emptiness. You hear him? Becomes more stable, becomes more solidly solid, even when, again, as I usually say, crappy crap's going on, working in a toxic corporate environment. I had it solidly for 10 months with a GM that was a bully, right? Bullied everybody, you're always terrified of the guy. All right. The solidness was there. Yes, at the end of the day, Jason person was tired from being in that corporate toxic yuck and being in the middle of town and all the rest, you know. This is much nicer, eh? Hermitville out here. So you can hold that and demonstrate that in life, and you can go to a toxic corporate job or a toxic work environment, school environment, you name it, old people's home, whatever, and hold this. And you get better gradings from Grace, from those guys, because you can hold this in a big city, you can hold this in the supermarket and then down the meat aisle if you're a vegan, all right? You can hold it everywhere. It grows and it becomes so you know you are that nothing. So that's what you got to look forward to. But again, it is that relentless practice and acclimatizing, because who you are as a person needs to get used to it. And it does take time. We are humans. I mean, seriously, how long does it take to develop as a person? $18 years, 16 years, 21 years, or some people that are still at home when they're 35, well, maybe it's when they turn 40. Get what I'm saying? And then you undo all that. So that takes years for your person to get used to it. That's why it takes years to be a black belt, and then another extra 10 years to get, say, third dan or whatever, which is 3 times longer than it took you to get the 7 or 8 belts to get to the black belt. Your presence, your stillness, your nothingness is the same, and your awakening is the same. There are more layers of awakening after abiding presence. I call it transpersonal, and it's in the advanced awakening page where you go transpersonal. Then you start feeling everybody else's shit. Oops, stuff. Right. And I feel my environments, which is why at Student Success Tutor there's lots of videos with me grabbing wild animals, and they don't care. They escape out and stay on me, the parrots and stuff. They know. I feel them, they feel me. Animal whispering. They know. They still behave like animals though. You got to be careful what you whisper to. Don't whisper to predators, you'll get eaten. Or poisonous snakes. So, that's the nothingness. You may get glimpses, and when you do, yeah, it's not you. You know that it's not you, but that's where you're headed. Okay? Some people will confuse just the energy of your hands, the aliveness out of your hands, or if you're doing energy work, might confuse that with presence, but who's to say it's not presence? But presence is subtler than that. Okay? And of course, then the nothingness is even more subtle than that, under that. So, over the years, you'll get more and more used to it. It'll become more and more solid for you. To the point where it is very, very solid. Never ever leaves. Because unconsciously, your unconscious system has gone back to the innocence and is rooted in that place. Note the word, rooted. Root chakra. Base. Rooted, as in roots, as in tree, as in ground. Right? We don't call it a leaf chakra down here, do we? You don't say I had a good Friday night and I got leafed. Nope. Grounded. That's where it is. That's what makes it real. Because your mind, we can all close our eyes and imagine what Darth Vader looks like. You read enough books or see enough memes on Facebook, oh, you create your reality. What you imagining is happening is what happens emotionally in your body. Yeah, so you can imagine bliss, you can imagine nothingness, you can imagine samadhi. If you can't, it just takes practice. Again, as I said, I spent 12 years doing it. I got really good at it. It wasn't real. Fantasy. But when you're doing it via your body, and it's all with you while you're having life's bad experiences and it's tangibly here, then you know it's real. You can't hold that stuff when you're going, and the mental body stuff, it's not real when crap's happening. Crap's happening. You're lost in your crap. If you're willing to see it, if you're willing to be self-honest. So that's my attempt at explaining nothingness. Let me know if it was clear enough, or what you think your version of it is. Because it is tangible, it is measurable by your capacity to hold it in life. This is how it is measurable. And when you can hold that and sense that, then of course, because you are that, you are everything, you then can also sense and feel if it's possibly true for another person. Chances are, if you have a session with me, I'll be able to help you get closer to that place, and I'll be able to tell where you are and what you got to do and what the blocks are, and all that sort of stuff. It's true. If you're stuck in your head, it'll be clear to me. I'll say, yeah, you're up here, this is what you got to do. And I'll help you sink in. People don't like being told they're in their heads. It pisses them off. Their identity gets annoyed. Don't tell me I'm in my head. Don't tell me I'm in my head. Well, who you are is a nobody, so it really doesn't give a shit, right? So, nothingness doesn't care what you think about this video that I'm talking about. This nothingness knows it's here and it's experiencing all of this. So does Jason Guy, because I'm feeling it. Listen to the crickets and the sea. Feel the space in your body, hear the plane. Being aware of your pelvic floor, tummy, what's your breathing doing, what's your hands doing, how are your legs? Is there a subtler space under that? An okayness, a stillness that just allows everything to happen. This voice, the noises in your own environment. And is there just an ineffable nothing under there? Does it sparkle? Does it not sparkle? Can you kind of see it but not see it at the same time? It's all those funny words, eh? Is it huge but nothing? Is it falling in but exploding? Does it seem to have no edges but... Feel, check in, stay there. Practice, practice, practice. Enter, enter, enter. Hear the little squeaky frog. Enter, enter, enter. Breathing, space. As you work your way through all this, you will have periods, if not months and months and months of this is really tediously boring. Well, that's just your personality. Who cares? Stick at it, please. Stick at it. Go and spend an hour in the supermarket and practice presence, please. Enjoy the artificial light and the crappy music and all of the smells and things that make you hungry, you know, stay away from the chocolate aisle. Go and see if you can do that. Be aware of the space. Come back, come back. Have you done it every time I've mentioned it in this video? There's your evidence. An hour before you watched this video, where were you? Did you go, am I present? And then in the body? There's some evidence for you. Notice that. Cool. That's how my practice was. It was X, whatever X is for you. Write it in your diary, and then next time you come back to this video or see another one of mine, you'll go, oh, hey, I practice more in the last day. Be relentless. When you go into the so people have awakenings and stuff and your practice is bad and you don't remember much, then you go into the non-abiding phase where, you know, your practice is good, you are consciously choosing. You get that sense of presence, you'll have awakenings, you'll have glimpses of the nothingness that may last little bits of time. And your head will say, yeah, I can remember that, yeah, I know what that's like, yeah. Might not be totally real, but it's like you kind of can't lose it, but it's not tangibly real, eh? It's not tangibly there, because if you're being self-honest, you gauge that. That's why I say for me now it's very, very solid and unbreakable, because it is very, very solid and unbreakable. Decade of evidence. So in the non-abiding phase, that kind of grows, and there'll be times when your practice is really hard and you've had an argument or you've lost your job and all sorts of hell's going on, and it takes you days to get your stillness and your presence sort of back to a good level of practice again, right? That's non-abiding. Even though there's some presence there, it's not, it's not as good as you know it can be. The cycles, the sine curve. Like the moon. Full moon, new moon, full moon, new moon. or waves of the ocean. As you head towards the abiding phase, your practice gets really good, like it's quite consistent through the day. That's why I didn't know I was in the abiding phase until I was well over 6 months in and I heard Adyashanti talk about it. And even then I didn't acknowledge it to myself because I've lost massive awakenings a decade earlier, you know, lots of massive awakenings. So I wasn't going to stop doing. When the nothingness becomes abiding, your presence becomes abiding, what happens is the practice I talk about in these videos shifts. It's not a doing, it's not a practice, it's not I have to soak in and feel my body, although if I do that, the nothingness grows like it has during this video for me, right? It's still getting bigger. Which proves you can think and talk and all sorts of stuff at the same time, right? Because I'm doing this video. When you hit the abiding phase, it's a priori, the stillness, the presence. And then the nothingness starts to grow. As you acclimatise it, your personality realises, I'm actually that. I'm that, which is nothing, and I'm stuck with this guy or girl. I'm the nothingness, and I'm stuck with this guy that's got bad habits that everybody hates. And bad habits I hate. I'd really like to give up coffee. Glad I didn't start smoking. Okay. Vigilance then becomes the word. It's not really a practice anymore, but it's the practice of being vigilant. Because unconsciously it's there. Unconsciously I'm vigilant to that. And Jason keeps tuning in. Because it feels good. That's the whole point, isn't it? When something's good, you indulge and you enjoy it. Until you're not enjoying it anymore, then you stop doing it. It's like chocolate. Oh, first few pieces are great. By the time you get to the end of the block, it's like... That doesn't happen with presence or the nothingness, okay? So you just stay there. But what happens is the bliss and all that sort of stuff just becomes very ordinary. It's just like chocolate non-stop. So what? So if you're talking about the bliss, your head's telling you about all this bliss, guess what? It's normal. Normal. Do you walk down the street and say to your friend, hey, guess what? I'm still breathing. Woo! It is amazing, man. I've been breathing now for X number of years. Although spiritual people do that about the bliss. Why? Okay, so you've learnt to breathe. Excellent. I've done that. People recognise it if you talk about, oh yeah, the bliss, man. Then they get some idea, oh yeah, so what's going on? Actually, nothing is going on. True nothing. Which is why, after all the bliss has gone on and become ordinary, you then enter another layers, joy and happiness and giggles, I call it, which is way nicer than the bliss anyway. So bliss, this is going to be a long video, isn't it? A lot of people are stuck in their mental bodies and are thinking all this stuff. They go into bliss. Ooh. And one young chap who's quite up here. Oh, when I meditate for long enough, the endorphins come out and I go into bliss. So what you're saying is you've gone into your mental body and maybe touching the bliss body, and you've gone into mental body bliss. The thing is with that sort of bliss is, if you hold that for 5, 6, 7 days quite intensely, you will notice you'll burn out. Literally, you literally feel burnt out and drained. And you will notice too, if it's a mental body type bliss, and this is how I can say it's measurable, right? Because I did all this stuff. You'll act out. You'll be silly. Not like I've been in this video, but silly. And it kind of deflates. And then again, so stuff can then happen and it knocks it out. The real bliss, the grounded bliss that comes as a side product from your presence, your nothingness, that doesn't actually leave while you're having bad crap happen. and your head still won't get it. But you're allowing the crap, and because you're allowing the crap, because you're present, then the happiness and the bliss is there at the same time as crappy crap. Have you ever thought of what it would have been like for Jesus Christ when he was going through that 3-day crucifixion, being poked with hot iron and stabbed with swords, and then hung up on a tree, which hurts. I mean, come on, you got holes in you, hurts. And you're not being fed, so you're thirsty and hungry. It would have hurt. But he would have had his nothingness and his presence and his stillness with him, and he would have been allowing of that. He wouldn't have been screaming out, Jesus Christ! Like, he might have been screaming out, Holy Moses instead, but you can guarantee he was screaming and yelling. Still happens. So this is how you know it's measurable. Deepens. How's your practice going? Still there? Hearing the crickets? So I'm going to wind this up. If this has helped you, make contact. We can have a chat. See about coaching. We'll take you there. You can measure it, and this can happen really, really smoothly. Come home. The videos, define it enough, stick at it, and it will happen. Let me know how you're going. Stick some likes on the YouTube thing for me. Share it. This level of clarity isn't out there yet for some reason. Why is this not this precise? Mind you, this only suits some people. Other people like the vague stuff. Do they come home or not is another story, because I'm saying this is measurable and definable. Isn't it? And it will resonate for you or it doesn't. That's fine with me. I don't care if nobody listens to me. My nothingness doesn't care. They care though. So we can save this place before we kill it. Be who you are. Remember, remember, remember. Go to a supermarket and practice presence. There you go. That's your task for the next day, if you should accept it. Now this recording is going to blow up in 10 seconds. Until then.
So what do you think? We all have tastes of it, eh? But it's about the consistency and how you take it, as I said in that video, into the supermarket. When you get hit by a car or whatever, you know, how you deal with it when you're going through a pandemic with all of the complications and the control factors and the legislation that makes you lose your job if you don't get the jab and all that stuff. I'm not saying any of it's right or wrong, but you know, this is human impacts. So are you present? Is it viscerally in your body? Is the divine yum yum, step 4, the nothingness there with you? So that is step 4 in the correct presence practice process, and that will happen in glimpses. When you're gone through and hitting proper abidance, the blurry lines between presence and the divine yum yum will be a little bit hard for you to discern. But as you deepen and move into phase 4, matured abidance, the divine yum yum, nothingness, becomes quite stable. And then you might get graced into the transpersonal, which is pretty tough. You'll get tested on everything. This is a certainty. Do you pass the tests, or as I said in that video, do you pass the gradings? Your 4th dan, 5th dan, 6th dan. Oh, says the little judo, little Corella. So if you want to know how to deal with the tests, make contact and have some coaching, and we'll get you moving in the right direction. Hey, patience. Hey? Yeah. See you in the next video. I'm Jason for AwakenedEssence.com. Come on, buddy. Yeah. It's something you do. Just like old Patience here had to jump across onto me to get to the seed. You have to do something with your attention to come into presence.